Today we're going to talk about finding the balance between the light and the shadow. That light is the potential, the possibilities, the positivity, the brightness of you, the ability for you to see the positive in any situation. The shadow, of course, is that darkness, the sad, the despair, the anger, the frustration. And you've got to be able to balance these two energies inside of you to be able to have some complete honest transformation that really is that foundation, that balanced foundation for growth. If you've got this overemphasis on positivity and everything is sunshine and roses and, you know, unicorn farts, I don't know why that popped into my head, but if you're someone who's only willing to look at the bright side and only focused on anything that's good and pretends that the shadow is not there, that's toxic positivity. That's avoidance. That's not being truthful to yourself that there is shadow within you and that there's shadow in the world. You've remember, you've got to have both. So then if you're only focused on the shadow and you're dwelling in that despair and that depression and that anger and that frustration, well, that fosters, inertia, and you don't move, you don't do anything. You crawl up in a ball in bed and you just don't want to go anywhere. We need to be able to kind of go back and forth between the two. We don't need to necessarily fall deep into despair to be able to go into bright positivity, but someplace in between. Your pendulum is going to swing regardless of whether you want it to or not. It's going to go back and forth. But if we can know where we are in our emotions and understand the feelings that we're going through, then we have a better idea of how we can work with them. Balance fosters a grounded, authentic progress. When you are in the bright and you can acknowledge the shadow, and when you're in the shadow and you can look for the light, then you've got a better chance of improving yourself, of changing that story, of some real true transformation. So some practical tools for that balancing, of course, is journaling. I love journaling. And EFT, if you're not familiar with EFT, it's emotional freedom technique, and it's tapping on meridian points on your body. You can find EFT tapping all over the internet. If you want some examples, I can create some videos. I've been doing tapping for a long time, like 10, 15 years. And it is incredibly cathartic. I really appreciate it because when you first start your session, you need to gauge in your body on a level from 1 to 10 where you feel that you are. And you can start it like I've started out on 11 sometimes, where shit is just really hitting me hard. And I can go through a tapping session and go down to like an 8 or 9, and then do the tapping session again and go down to 7 or 6. And sometimes that's all I can do is to, do a couple sessions really quick to be able to get me down to a level that's manageable. And then I can go on about my day. There's even a quick tapping session that you can just do by tapping your fingers. If you're in a situation where you really can't tap on your face and tap on the meridian points because you're in a meeting or something, underneath the table, you could be tapping and going through that session in your head and calming yourself down or helping you to alleviate pain that you're in. EFT is fantastic because it's not only emotional, psychological, it's also physical. It's also anything that you've got going on in your energetic body, because EFT is breaking up the stuck energy that's in your body, that you're holding on to something that's bothering you. And it kind of breaks that up and allows it to flow a lot easier. So another thing that you can do is shamanic journeying. I love shamanic journeying. Shamanic journeying is a drumming session where the steady drumming puts you into a trance and allows you to relax and go into other worlds and just explore different levels. Sandra Ingerman is one of my favorite. Michael Harner is another. He's actually the kind of the grandfather of modern Western shamanism. He actually went to other countries and did years and years and years of studying, and then created a shamanic foundation, whatever, here in the States. So, journaling, and shamanic journey. Journaling helps you to bridge that gap between the unconscious and the conscious. And one of my favorite ways of doing that is writing with both hands. So you write the question or the problem or the issue that you've got going on with your dominant hand, and then with your non-dominant hand, write the response. Now, initially when you start this, obviously your non-dominant hand writing, if you don't do this on a regular basis, is going to be very difficult to read. But the thought is that this is going to connect to that other side of your brain and allow you to have the freedom, your soul, your spirit, to have the freedom to be able to write out what it is that is truly going on within you. I have found it to be so enlightening. I have discovered some things about myself that I really didn't know, because there was I didn't have another way to discover these things within me. Talking to my inner child, discovering what was going on with that, and my whole issue with crying and why I have asthma, because as a little kid, not being able to cry or not being allowed to cry, that, all that kind of stuff. I didn't discover that until I started doing that kind of journaling. FT helps, like I said, to release those blockages and restore that energetic balance. Shamanic journeying connects you with those deeper intuitive insights. So these different methods, and there are countless more. You need to find what works for you. I'm just sharing what worked for me. They may be things that you may not agree with, and that's perfectly fine. I just want you to give you some options and let you know that there are so many things out there that you could do, and so many things that you can try to say, okay, this worked for me. I'll try this again. This didn't work for me. The bottom line is embracing that duality is your superpower. When you can live in that balance, it allows you to live authentically, both in your strength and your vulnerability. Honoring that duality gives you resilience to face those challenges that come up in your life. And it's not a contradiction, it's a full spectrum of being. You not acknowledging the sadness and the pain and the hurt is not a full expression of you. If you're only focused on the positive and the bright and the shiny, that again is not a full expression of you. Being able to express the full range of emotions allows you to be a more complete person, and your expression and your sharing yourself with the world is a lot more complete. So some action steps that I'd like to share with you, and being able to do this, is to create a balance list. Create a list of what you feel are your light attributes, and then also create a list of words that help you to incorporate more of your light side. Online, I found this huge list of just different emotions, a range of emotions, going from happiness, the joyful, the absolute pinnacle of positivity, all the way down to dark, deep despair. Having that and being able to know that there's more than one word for how I feel really makes a difference. So make a list of the bright attributes versus the shadow attributes, the fear, the anger versus the joy and the creativity. That way you have a better idea of what you're feeling. When you want to shift or you want to change, you can look at this list and go, okay, this is where I kind of feel like I am. I want to shift to something a little bit brighter, lighter, and spend the day intentionally observing how you lean towards that light or that shadow in interactions. When you're working with people, when you're working by yourself, when you're out in public, when you're in particular situations? How are you flowing between those two? The third thing is try one new practice for connecting with your shadow. So I talked about the mirror work, I talked about journaling. I know therapy does that. You can try all different kinds of things. So find another way to interact with that shadow. Doing a guided meditation actually is a very good thing. All right, so number 4 is meditate with the intention to meet your integrated self. That part of you that has worked through all the shadows and is now just doing a really great job of being balanced. You can find a guided meditation, or you can just do it in your head and just kind of work through it and say, okay, this is what I want to do. Number 5 is plan a self-care ritual that includes both the light and the dark aspects. I told you I work with my tarot cards. I have a ritual where I do a reading that not only looks at the good things, the positive, but also looks at the shadow, the places where I need to work. So that for me is one of my rituals. My dark goddess magic up there. Find something that works for you that you can use to incorporate in a ritual. And it doesn't have to be a daily thing. It could be once a month, every other week, whatever it may be, but something that incorporates both sides of you so that your shadow doesn't feel like, okay, I'm only ever getting shoved down. I'm going to express myself in another way. Usually that ends up being physical in a not too pretty way. If you're expressing it and you're allowing that part of you, that sadness, that despair, that depression to be expressed, to be acknowledged and loved and cared for, the whole system works much better. All right. So I've got shadow prompts like I did yesterday. The first one is, in what ways do I feel out of balance in my life? In what ways do I feel out of balance in my life? Number 2, what beliefs hold me back from embracing duality? What beliefs hold me back from embracing duality? What scares me most about living fully in both the light and the shadow? What scares me most about living fully in both light and shadow? How do my light and shadow work together to protect me? How do my light and shadow work together to protect me? And then the last one, number 5, what does balance feel like? And what small steps can I take to achieve it? What does balance feel like? And what small steps can I take to achieve it? So that's all I've got for you today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about turning that pain into purpose and the gifts of the shadow. We've talked about this a little bit before, but now we're going to go a little bit deeper into it. So don't forget, live life adventurously. Talk to you later. Bye.